Breaking news, no new answers this morning from Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell just appeared virtually before a House Oversight Committee. This was a closed deposition, but Congress members tell us she invoked her Fifth Amendment right and refused to testify. Now, you may remember Maxwell was found guilty back in 2021 for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence.
As expected, Ghislaine Maxwell took the Fifth and refused to answer any questions. This is obviously very disappointing. We had many questions to ask about the crimes she and Epstein committed, as well as questions about potential co-conspirators. We sincerely want to get to the truth of the American people and justice for the survivors. That's what this investigation is about.
Now let's go live to CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen. Good to see you today, Jake. We know Maxwell pleaded the Fifth the entire time, so what happens now?
Well, what happens now, Representative Comer said, is that they're going to continue. Again, this investigation, Mugo, and to remind our audience, is separate from what the Department of Justice has been doing. James Comer has requested a number of files in his capacity as head of this oversight committee that's been doing its separate investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's wrongdoing and any potential co-conspirators that have not yet been charged. We know that Les Wexner, who was the former CEO of Victoria's Secret, is expected to be brought in for a deposition. Comer also said that the Clintons, Hillary and Bill Clinton, are expected to come in at some point in the next month for further depositions after they kind of had a separate back and forth. Again, there's not much that Congress can do here. We know that also, Mugo, today, these lawmakers have the opportunity to go to the Department of Justice and go look at the unredacted files, over 3 million that have been released by the Department of Justice in the last couple of weeks. At the same time, though, there's just not many levers for them to pull going forward. And Maxwell's attorney said a couple of months ago that his client would plead the Fifth if she was not given some kind of immunity by the White House to go and do this kind of congressional testimony. As we know, she was also moved to a lower security prison. And Robert Garcia, who's a Democrat who leads the Democratic coalition on this committee, said that he wants to find out answers to more of that and why she was moved to that prison after she met with Todd Blanche, who's the second in command at the Justice Department last year. And they had a very extensive, long conversation that was released. I think you can clearly see the calculus made go to the White House for potentially more protections, not to Congress, where there isn't exactly as much to gain for someone who's already behind bars and in prison like Ghislaine Maxwell is.
Yeah, and I also want to ask you about this because Maxwell has, as you said, she's already been convicted. She also spoke with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche several months ago. So why this tactic now, the pleading the Fifth, and also being willing to do the deposition too?
Well, it certainly allows her, as many people who go before congressional committees do, to say that she did it. She cannot be held in contempt of Congress for this after kind of putting it off for a while. But by pleading the Fifth, she's essentially stonewalling this committee, where the Justice Department also hit kind of an end, which was not getting the answers that they necessarily wanted to hear. If you go through what Todd Blanche questioned her on, it was a number of questions probably similar to what congressional leaders were going to ask today. Any ties between Donald Trump and Epstein that were not previously known, any potential co-conspirators. But even in those conversations, Maxwell did not go into new detail about what additional information she knows. Again, this is kind of this long-term and long play by her and her legal team to potentially see if they can get any kind of either commutation or pardon of her sentence in exchange for more information, of which lawmakers and potentially the Department of Justice believe she has. That just hasn't materialized, Mugo. And again, it's kind of one of the issues here with this congressional committee is, the Clintons might as well say the same thing. Les Wexner, a longtime business associate of Jeffrey Epstein, might also say the same thing. You can get called in front. Very hard to resist these subpoenas when they come from Congress, but do you have to give them new information? Not necessarily. And again, this hearing was supposed to be potentially all day. It barely went a couple of minutes, as we saw lawmakers come out right away and said that she pled the Fifth on every answer.
Okay, Jake Rosen, thank you so much. And starting today, Congress members are now able to view unredacted versions of the evidence in Epstein's case. So far, the Justice Department has released more than 3 million documents. CBS News Congressional reporter Taurean Small is live on Capitol Hill for us today. Taurean, can you break down what's happening and how this release is working?
Yeah, so Mugo, like Jake laid out there, the Department of Justice is allowing lawmakers to take a look at those unredacted files. This comes after a bipartisan wave of criticism over what many lawmakers are calling the slow walking of the Trump administration for the release of the files as part of the law that they passed and the president did sign into law, effectively calling for this to be released in a timely manner. Of course, the response from the Department of Justice was that many of this had to be redacted, and it took time as there are millions and millions of files, and they did it for the protection of some of the people interested there. That still didn't sit well with quite a few lawmakers who were concerned about the motivations behind the Trump administration's decision to redact some things included in these files. As we heard from Thomas Massie, the Republican from Kentucky congressman who's part of the Freedom Caucus, who has been at odds with President Trump when it comes to this matter. He is really the first lawmaker we heard from who is accepting this offer from the Department of Justice. He says he will be viewing the files today. He's also been polling his audience on Twitter, asking specifically what areas should he take a look at, and he, according to his post on social media, will be doing so. Whether or not we could get a full readout from his review is to be seen, as, again, this is redacted files, so I'm imagining he would be looking to avoid any legal troubles by disclosing what has been essentially been sealed, Mugo.
Okay, Taurean Small on Capitol Hill for us today. Thank you.